You can think in terms of structure, ideas and concepts manifested as solid objects which can then be manipulated to form a pattern. The design created will impose its own requirements and limitations and present you with a choice. You can either accept the pattern or shift the elements to form a new one. In this way lies both direction and commitment. As you begin working with the structure and modeling situations, you come to realize and understand how plastic and amorphous everything is. I wasn't expecting Bob. I hadn't started dinner or even thought about it.
You're home early.
I finished my work and thought I'd go home. Jack Kelly came into the office today.
I thought he was in prison.
He served the whole 20-year sentence. He got out 2 years ago.
Doesn't seem that long ago.
He wanted to talk. We went over to the park.
Bob?
Each time a new block is added, it changes all existing relationships and the entire field is altered. This result produces an instantaneous infinity of possible alternatives, the very definition of chaos. Yet the fact need not be accepted because it exists only on one plane in a single reality. If that reality is rejected, then chaos is rejected as well.
Dad.
What?
Hey, Dad.
What?
A man brought a squirrel in today. Dr. Applebaum said, "What's wrong with this squirrel?"
Uh-huh.
So the man said, "This is Peter and he's fine." I've got another squirrel at home. His name is Bounce. I brought Peter in so I could show you what's wrong with Bounce. Isn't that something?
That's something, all right.
Dad,
What?
did you hear the news about the man in the park? This afternoon, the police found a dead man by one of the benches.
You do not have to wear a shoe that pinches. You do not have to buy a product that's overpriced and too expensive. You do not have to accept a fact that does not fit. And although you can't determine your destiny, to a large measure, you control the guidance systems.
Sit down, Harrington. Tall people make me nervous.
Why is that?
Nobody knows what they're thinking way up there. I want you on the City Hall thing. Where you been?
Public records. I've been working on something.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, might turn into a big story.
Yeah, well, never mind that. Alice made some calls and has notes. Go see her. And by the way, Mr. Lafferty was asking about you. Yes, he was. Mr. Lafferty cares about us, Josh.
What did you tell him?
Cares about one of us, anyway. I smiled pleasantly and changed the subject. Have you had the pleasure of dealing with Manny Mellish, the muck-a-muck in the city controller's office?
I've been looking into the Jack Kelly story.
Ran this morning. Kelly story. Short paragraph, no pick, above the fold on page 3. Had a hard time with the headline. I couldn't decide which worked better. Despondent ex-con shoots self in park, or despondent ex-con shoots self in head.
You went with Park.
I liked head, but I went with park.
There's something wrong with it, Arnie.
Well, you think head was better?
You know about the letter found on Kelly? I've got a real hunch about this one.
That's great, Josh. Don't forget to stop at Alice's desk on your way to City Hall.
Kelly worked in the special prosecutor's office.
Are you still here?
He got sentenced to 20 years on the Meeks thing and served the whole 20.
Remember it vaguely. The past is catching up with me, Harrington, and it's boring.
He got out 2 years ago. Nobody knows what he's been doing since.
Maybe he was living with his mother. It's a done deal, Josh. Is there some reason we should care?
Yesterday afternoon, he went to see Bob Grant at the office where Grant works. They walked over to the park and talked. Then Bob Grant went back to work. Kelly stayed in the park.
And?
A passerby finds Kelly on the ground, blood all over the place, gun lying beside him. The police are treating it as a suicide.
Works for me.
The letter they found on Kelly's body, Arnie, points to a relationship between Kelly and Bob Grant's wife, Ada. I say it's no suicide.
Mr. Lafferty has his eye on you, Josh. He thinks you have the makings of a good reporter. A good reporter knows when there's not enough going on to make a story.
Not now, but there will be when I get more information.
How's that? You're on your way down to City Hall.
I'm busy on the Kelly thing. Couldn't Alice do it?
Shh. Alice does contact. You should know. She makes phone calls, does research and rewrite. She doesn't leave the building, and she's the only one who knows how to make a drinkable cup of coffee. According to rumors, which I'm sure you've heard, she also does other things for me. I wish. So it's not Alice, it's you. Get your long-ass self over to City Hall pronto. Get next to the esteemed Manny Mellish and breathe sunshine into his ear. Come back here with something I can use.
What happens to the Kelly story?
Harrington, the world is a nasty setup. None of us gets to do what we want. Me, I'd rather be in Bermuda. Feet up on the patio, writing the great American novel, enjoying the balmy breezes. Instead, I'm locked in this office, playing field marshal to the boss's son-in-law.
Are you saying I don't do my job?
I'm saying you do whatever you want.
This one's big, Arnie. I can feel it.
29 years in the business, Josh. If I had a hanky for every newspaper man's hunch that paid off, I'd still have to blow my nose on my sleeve.
So I should stay on the Kelly story.
There's no way I want you going upstairs whining about it. I'll give you 24 hours. Maybe less. I'll put Lester Stiles on City Hall. If Mellish turns out to be gay, it could be a good move.
You're a peach, Arnie.
Tell me about it.
There's nothing you do that doesn't cause change, and each change alters the direction of the stream. The ultimate course is the sum of all changes.
The key to the whole thing was Ada Grant, but I didn't think she'd agree to see me, so I didn't call ahead. Mrs. Grant, I'm Josh Harrington. I'm a reporter for the Sun-Times. The police found a man dead in the park yesterday, and I wonder if I can ask you a few questions. The man's name was Jack Kelly, and he had a letter on him. The letter indicated that you and he knew each other? According to my notes, you and he had a relationship? Mrs. Grant? Mrs. Grant?
You can float on the current and never understand a single thing. You can stick your oar in and watch the ripples you've caused and notice the changes, although they might be microscopically tiny, they have nonetheless altered the space-time continuum.
I made a phone call. I arranged to speak with one of Ada Grant's daughters. You're Roxanne Grant,
That's right.
the oldest daughter?
What about it?
You knew him. You must have known him.
No.
It's just a question.
I'm not interested in your questions. The man was in prison for 20 years. How could I have known him? It doesn't make sense.
Still, before he went to jail?
I never met the man. I don't know anything about it, okay?
As I left the building, a young woman stopped me. She said she had information for me. You are?
Holiday Jones, Roxy's friend,
Spell that for me, would you please?
her best friend. What she told you wasn't true.
How do you know?
She told me stories.
What kind of stories?
Things she remembered from back then.
Like what?
She would have to tell you. I can't go behind her back. I'm her best friend.
Did Roxanne say Jack Kelly spent time with her mother?
What difference does it make?
It could be important.
That was 22 years ago. She was 6 years old.
I was hoping Lieutenant Castle would help me out. You have to admit, Lieutenant, there's more to this.
I already gave you all we're giving out.
Nothing.
Bag it. Harrington, I want you to do me a favor.
What's that?
Get the fuck out of my office. I've got work to do.
Going upstairs, I stopped in to see Lieutenant Castle's boss, Captain Cope. I didn't know the man, but I figured I had nothing to lose. Captain Cope.
How'd you get past Edna?
Captain, my name is Josh Harrington. I'm a reporter with the Sun-Times. I'd like to get your opinion on the Kelly case.
I gotta fire that woman. She drives me crazy. Chews gum too. There is no Kelly case. That's a suicide. Don't you read the papers?
There's a lot of unanswered questions.
All day long, chew, chew, chew. There are no questions, and the case is closed.
What was Kelly doing in the 2 years after he got out of prison?
Ask Madame Zora. Cross her palm with silver. I got complaints about you, Harrington.
What about the letter?
Forget it, Harrington. You're way off base.
How do you know I'm not onto something?
You want future cooperation from this department? You better drop it, get lost, and stay lost.
If you're wrong, this could all come back and land on you.
The secret is to be precise. If you're careful where you put them, they can be used again, and there's no need to hurry. Working at a steady pace, there's plenty of time. But if you place one incorrectly, then every block placed after will be wrong as well.
Hard time getting a hold of you, Harrington.
Yeah, I know. My phone is giving me problems.
You could have called in from someplace. You knew I was trying to get you.
I was busy interviewing on the Kelly story.
The husband?
Bob Grant wouldn't return my calls.
The wife?
She wouldn't talk to me.
The police?
No help. They're sticking to the suicide thing.
I gave you a shot at it, Josh, and now City Hall is calling.
I did talk to some people. One's a member of the immediate family.
What did you find out?
The big one is this afternoon. I set up an interview with Ada Grant's sister. She lived with him back then and is willing to talk.
I had a call from Captain Cope. He says it's definitely a suicide. He called you a pest.
The sister's the key. I know it.
The sister. And come right back here after.
I will. I promise.
This is a newspaper, Mr. Harrington. Not a good place for somebody with a hobby.
Ted LaFrance in the DA's office had been helpful in the past. Look, I know you're busy, but I'm on a deadline.
This is my lunch hour, Harrington. I'm busy. Busy eating lunch.
Won't take a minute.
12-letter word for industrial worker.
I don't know. What's Turner doing on the Kelly case?
What's that?
Jack Kelly, the man found dead in the park.
The suicide?
I don't think it was.
Jesus, he'd love that. Eat it with a spoon. What have you got?
I'm working on a couple of leads.
You got nothing. 5-letter word for astrological sign with a bow and arrow, starting with K.
I don't know.
Come back when you know something.
Hello? I can't hear you. You're breaking up, Arnie. I'll talk to you later. This was it, my last chance. I had to get something I could use from Ada Grant's sister, Stella Williams. Could we say that?
No, I don't think so.
Would it be a fair statement?
No, if you're going to put words in my mouth, why waste my time? Go away. Write it the way you want it to be.
Whoa, I think we got off on the wrong foot, Mrs. Williams. Let's back up.
You could start by calling me Stella. Mrs. Williams is my mother-in-law. We don't get along.
Stella, let's go back to the beginning.
Oh, God.
Your sister Ada is older?
By 18 years. I was a wonderful surprise, at least for a while.
You were living with Ada and her husband Bob. How did that happen?
My father left when I was 3 years old. Mom and I got along okay until I was teenage years. You know how that goes.
How's it go?
A lot of yelling, screaming, fighting all the time. I was sick of trying to run in my life.
And?
She was working full time. I was 15, too much for her to deal with. Today I give her credit. Back then, no. When Bob and Ada offered me to take me in, she jumped at it. So did I.
How'd it work out?
Depends who you ask.
How's that?
Ada's always worked out of the house. My niece Roxanne was 5 years old. Ada needed help. It wasn't exactly a goodness of their hearts kind of thing.
You had more freedom living here.
Yeah, sure. Instead of my mom running my life, I had my sister telling me what to do.
Worse than your mom?
Let's move on, Mr. Harrington.
Do you remember Jack Kelly?
Oh, you bet.
Why's that?
Did he knock? Did he ring the bell?
Is it important?
I'd like to get it right. Anyway, I answered the door and there he was.
Jack Kelly.
I never saw blue eyes like that.
What did he want?
It hit me like an electric shock. I must have said something because he smiled.
Why did he knock?
He and his wife had moved next door. He wanted to borrow a handsaw.
He seems to have made quite an impression.
Mister, you have no idea.
What about Ada?
You have to understand, Bob Grant was absolutely devoted to Ada and Roxanne. He was steady as a rock.
But?
He's a good man, without a mean bone in his body, but Bob's not an exciting person.
And Jack Kelly was.
Jesus Mary and the kid on training wheels, yes. He would set a room on fire just by walking into it.
Was that your sister's opinion too?
After years with Bob, she was more than ready. She was asleep and Jack woke her up.
Are you saying she was bored?
No, she wasn't bored.
Then what?
Mister, you have to figure that one out. I can't explain it to you. I can't explain to anybody who stands up to pee.
They spent time together?
They sure did.
How much time?
I'd come home from school, they'd be in the kitchen drinking tea.
All the time?
Often.
Do you think they had a relationship?
You want to put that into plain English?
Stella!
Alright.
What I'm asking is, in your opinion, did your sister Ada and Jack Kelly have an intimate relationship?
Stella!
Keep your pants on! I'm on my way. I've got to go. If you've got questions like that, you better ask Ada.
I didn't know what to think about Harrington. On the one hand, he's got drive and passion. On the other, he goes his own way, and that's not much use to an editor. On the third hand, I have to live with him because he can't be fired. Good to see you, Harrington. I was beginning to get lonely up here in my ivory tower. Quick like a bunny, grab whatever Lester's got and slide down to City Hall.
What did he get from Mellish?
Not so much as a cheery hello. Turns out Mellish is straight, despite his well-known penchant for handmade Italian ties and Vidal Sassoon haircuts.
I have to start from zero?
Yeah, well, you should have started a day and a half ago.
Aren't you going to ask what I got on Kelly?
We both know what you've got, Mr. I've Got a Hunch.
A man is dead, and we'll never know what happened. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to deal with it. And everyone takes the easy way.
Before I accidentally forget that you're Mr. Lafferty's son-in-law and accidentally fire you.
Jack Kelly died in the park, and nobody gives a damn.
The problem that arises is shadow, ghost, and suggested structure that is present as leftover artifact. If something once existed, then its reality may be denied, but the physical fact of it remains. There is, however, a way to chase the ghost and bring daylight to the shadows. When the field of play grows crowded, select the one path that will provide the word. A little swig of wine. My whole life has been coming to this moment, and you don't get something for nothing. Forgetting the past is easy, but it's hard work getting the past to forget you. Ultimately, truth is a relative thing, and reality a matter of opinion. Jack Kelly was there when I needed something more in my life. For everything that happened, and all that's happened since, good days and bad, I have no regrets.
The truth is, I'm not sure what happened. I picked up the telephone and heard that voice. Worlds of time separated me from Jack Kelly in those days. I came to the office looking older, but otherwise much the same as I remembered. He didn't have a lot to say until we sat down on a park bench. Kelly told me he found Jesus in prison, that he'd come back to set the balance straight. He started talking, and I stopped listening. I didn't want to hear because I knew what it would be. He must have said things. He could have taken out that pistol and handed it to me, saying he was a bad person who deserved to die. Held it out to me handle first, begging me to shoot him. Could be that I didn't take the gun and walked away. It could be that I took the gun, pointed it, and pulled the trigger. Whichever it was, the result was the same. What's a man's life worth? I'd say it depends on the man.
this city, to this city, came to this town, and I came to this city.